Hi, and welcome back to the inside of my head, where in this video, I'm looking at Godzilla Dominion in my latest slice of the Monsterverse cake. You want some cake? Yeah, have some cake. I know you like it. Eat the fucking cake! This graphic novel follows up from King of the Monsters, and if that movie showed us what it was like to take the throne, this is the story of what it takes to rule over the Titan Kingdom. Not only having to retain the throne, but also keep the peace in a world where the Titan pecking order is still finding its balance. Apparently, after Ghidorah Gate, too many Titans were awoken and there aren't enough resources to go around, so they're all at each other's throats. Now, the main reason I'm really interested in this one is that it gives us what we've all been begging for, a story without any human characters, and as such, it doesn't really have a traditional plot. It's almost like a nature documentary in many ways. There's a voice of God doing the narration, and I can almost hear David Attenborough's voice doing the voiceover. So the Big G starts out by finding Scylla in a confrontation with the Coast Guard, and it's clear that Scylla has gone mad with hunger and is after the radiation from a sunken missile of some sort. I mean, the military really need to be less cavalier with the missiles, right? Keep track of those things, goddammit. Like, Jesus Christ, when they're not popping them off left, right, and center, they're losing them down the back of the sofa? What the hell? Anyway, there's a fight, and of course, Godzilla puts Scylla back in her place. It's the first fight we've ever seen Scylla involved in, and she has these spaghetti-like tendril things that flop all over Godzilla's face, and to me, this is like the Titan equivalent of a wet willy, you know what I mean? You can almost see the G-Man going like, that's disgusting, why would you do? After Scylla swims off, tail between her legs, Godzilla intervenes in a fight between Behemoth and a new creature called Amhuluk, which I really like the design of. You can see trees growing out of its back like Siren Jaw has, and it's covered in a dense system of roots. It looks cool. Anyway, Amhuluk snaps off one of Behemoth's tusks like it was nothing, and he's about to drag Behemoth away to eat him. But as Behemoth is rejuvenating the landscape, Godzilla says, "Oi, that woolly mammoth ain't yours to steal," and chases him off. And this is where we get to the cornerstone of this novel. And that's Godzilla's search for a new home. Because, he needs somewhere to rest and recharge and, watch Netflix or whatever. So he heads back to his lair, and we see that it's been devastated after Surisawa sacrificed himself when he detonated the nuke in King of the Monsters. He's attacked by a bunch of giant piranha fish and realizes that the nuke must have punched a hole through to Hollow Earth and let something else through. And I'm not sure if this beast thing is ever given a name, but from what I understand, these piranha fish things are like drones and they're all connected via a hive mind. But Godzilla's like, nah, have some atomic breath. Shriek! And it looks like he's chased them off, but then the big one comes through. But Godzilla's like, nah, and rips its spine out. So G-Man resumes his search for a home, and he uses his Godzilla Spidey sense to remember a Lair from long ago before he was driven out by an old rival. And what does this look like? Does this look like anyone we know? And takes a moment to gaze at the moon before remembering his old flame Mothra. He has a run-in with some whalers and he comes across this, and this is Kika, and it's trapped within fishing nets. Godzilla frees it and lays the smackdown on the planet abusing humans. Then he resumes his journey to what he hopes will be a lair that can give him some much-needed sustenance and rest. And while he's traveling, he takes a moment to sharpen his dorsal plates on the rocks above him, which I thought was quite interesting. He sharpens his dorsal plates? Cool! Anyway, with his energy really needing replenishing here, he arrives on the island, and this is where we get a mention of the rival. Now, knowing what we know now, this is obviously a reference to Kong. But once he gets to this island, he finds that there is a rival there, just not the one he expected. And this is Tiamat. And it's a Chinese dragon-style beast. And she wraps around Godzilla with her razor-sharp scales, cutting into him and drags him underwater before he repeatedly stomps on her head, before she eventually bows to the king as well. Anyway, once Tiamat buggers off, Godzilla looks around his lair and he finds this, which is obviously from an ancestor of Kong. Now this confused me a little bit because I thought the Kongs were only ever on Skull Island. So I started thinking, is this island Skull Island that Godzilla's just arrived on? Or are there other Kongs elsewhere? I don't know, but regardless, the G-Man is due some well-earned shut-eye, and this layer will do for now. So he sends some mind electricity out around the world or whatever. I guess it's supposed to be telepathic communication to the other Titans to tell them, you guys get some rest too. Chill, I'll be back soon after my siesta. And that's where it ends with the to be continued. And I was left feeling, a bit muddled. On one hand, I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. The biggest thing for me is what I mentioned already about there being no human characters, and instead of the human characters, much is made of his connection with nature, where he really feels like Mother Nature's enforcer. The part where he looks up at the moon is beautiful, and he really polices the other Titans so they don't step out of line. So in this one, you really feel that keeping the whole ecosystem ticking over smoothly is not just about killing big giant bad guys like Ghidorah. Another thing about having no humans featured is that there's no real plot to speak of. It's kind of just a slice of life. And to go back to my analogy from the beginning of the video, kind of like a nature documentary in a way, you know, where you're following like a wolf pack and then one member within that wolf pack and his interactions with all the other members of the wolf pack. And at the end of the whole damn thing, your main wolf dies in a ditch and the whole world just moves on. And you're like, okay, well, that was that. There's no big developments. There's no big lessons learned. It's just a snapshot of the way the world works sometimes. That's really what it reminded me of. Another thing that I thought was great is that one issue that I have with a lot of these graphic novels is that they don't devote a lot of panels to the actual combat scenes. But in Godzilla Dominion, it's almost nothing but that, because there's no talking head, cardboard cutout humans to separate all the good scenes. It's only monster action. And the artwork is sublime. It's some of my favorite artwork in a novel so far. And I'm not necessarily talking about the art style, because I've seen that before, but I'm talking about the framings and the shot compositions and the feeling of epicness within. The new creature designs are pretty much all awesome. I really liked all of them. And a special note goes to the way that Behemoth looks now. Like in a couple of the panels you see his face, and did his face always look like that? Look, he looks awesome. And then in one panel here, you see him walking on two legs almost. I always thought of him like just a giant woolly mammoth basically, but seeing this puts a whole other spin on it. And even Kika, when I first saw it in the first couple of panels, I thought, oh god, that looks really lame. But then when you see the full thing, when it spreads its tentacles out, that looks awesome too. So creature design, big thumbs up from me. But there are a couple of negatives here. Going back to my analogy of it feeling like a nature documentary almost, there are a couple of big consequences to that. First off would be no plot progression, but I guess that's pretty obvious, right? And on top of that, there's not a hell of a lot of new information to be learned about the universe from this. I mean, yes, we do have a bunch of new Titans, that's really cool. And yes, there are a couple of little snippets like, you know, the fact that he has to sharpen his back spikes. And also the Kong skull is quite intriguing. I guess what I'm trying to say is that in comparison to the story that came before that, King of the Monsters, where he saved the world from Ghidorah, and the story before that, where he saved the world from being taken over by Mutos, a story about him finding a new cave to have a sleep in doesn't really feel that important in the scheme of things. But that isn't necessarily a bad thing, just see it as a dropping down in gear. And it goes hand in hand with the slice of life nature of this story. So overall, I liked Godzilla Dominion. Would I have preferred it to take a normal narrative approach? Perhaps, but I did think this was a breath of fresh air, so I'm glad I've got it on my shelf. And I'd really encourage you guys to check it out if you get the chance, and let me know what you thought. Okay guys, up next is Kingdom Kong. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me kindly invite you to get out of my head while I get to work on that, and I will see you very soon for the next one. Thank you very much. Cheerio, bye!